Good afternoon. I'd just like to start initially by introducing Pastor Thomas Scott and Mr. James Cole, who will be speaking in a few moments. I'd like to begin on behalf of Sheriff G and the men and women of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to express our condolences for Mr. Riggins' family and friends. Earlier today, Sheriff G met with several representatives of the African American community to discuss the death of Mr. Riggins. As the individual overseeing the investigation, I was able to provide them with the facts surrounding the case, which I'll provide to you here shortly. Just so you're aware, I've been with the Sheriff's Office 25 years. I grew up here, and I take our investigations very seriously. The integrity that we choose to use in these investigations cannot be withheld. I've had the opportunity to be the commander of our narcotics division, so I understand what goes on with street and higher level dealing search warrants, as well as the commander of our criminal investigations division and oversaw several uses of deadly force investigations, as well as worked in the internal affairs division. So I understand the need for transparency and the fact that our personnel adhere to our policies and procedures. Today's meeting provided an opportunity for a valuable exchange of information between the sheriff, members of his staff, along with these community leaders, so we can continue to work together. This investigation started back in July while undercover detectives were attempting to purchase narcotics from street-level dealers and identify sources of supply, as well as improve the community and conduct of life for citizens who live in this area. On July 13th, undercover detectives came into contact with the subject later identified as Mr. Riggins at the Get and Go located at 78th Street and Rideout Road. The detectives engaged Mr. Riggins in a conversation concerning narcotics and subsequently purchased a quantity of marijuana from him. Then on July 25th, our undercover detectives again, out conducting investigations, came into contact with Mr. Riggins again at the Get and Go. They met with him, discussed narcotics, and again purchased marijuana. Additionally, he invited them back to his residence if they wanted more. At that point, we declined at that time, but he gave the detectives his phone number so that they could reach him to purchase narcotics in the future. Again, on August 8th, our undercover detectives contacted Mr. Riggins with the phone number that he provided to arrange for an additional purchase and quantity of marijuana. The detectives met with Mr. Riggins and again purchased marijuana from him, with him again advising us to contact him in the future. While conducting their background investigations, our detectives ran a history on Mr. Riggins, which indicated he had numerous arrests previously. The most recent was in April of 2015, and at that time he was charged with possession of cannabis with intent to sell or deliver, possession of drug paraphernalia, and obstructing and opposing an officer without violence. They also located a report from August 12, 2015, where deputies responded to Mr. Riggins' residence located at 1432 Longwood Loop, where one of the residents that lived there, not Mr. Riggins, called in to the sheriff's office requesting our assistance because they were afraid somebody was going to shoot at their house. Our deputies responded to the scene and came into contact with Mr. Riggins as well as several other individuals. While at the residence, they located 2 firearms outside on the property. Mr. Riggins stated to us that he didn't touch the guns because he was a convicted felon and they weren't his. However, one of the individuals that was inside the house advised that he had observed Mr. Riggins with a firearm the week prior, not that particular day, but in the past. At that time, deputies weren't able to determine whose firearm it was, so they did not charge anybody at that time and impounded the guns. Our detectives then drafted a search warrant for the residence, which was subsequently approved by the state attorney's office and a judge prior to our execution. The factors mentioned above were taken into consideration, the potential for weapons and past history when preparing to execute the search warrant. As many know now, on August 30th at approximately 800 hours in the morning, our SWAT team executed the search warrant. The SWAT team gave numerous announcements over a PA system advising where the sheriff's office, search warrant, and requesting that the individuals come outside the residence. 3 individuals along with a child exited the residence and advised there was still a male inside. Commands were again given and still no one exited the residence. A decision was made to breach or break the window of the bedroom where it was believed the subject was. Once the window was broken, Deputy Johnson saw an individual later identified as Mr. Riggins on the bed and gave him several commands to show his hands. Again, Mr. Riggins did not comply and was moving under the covers. Repeated commands were again given, and Deputy Johnson's concern grew. The subject then moved between the wall and the bed, between the bed and the wall in the room. The deputy could not see what Mr. Riggins was doing, but saw him moving around and was fearful he may be getting a weapon, based on, again, the history of his arrests and connection to guns in the past. Mr. Riggins then jumped up and moved his hands towards his waistband, at which time Deputy Johnson fired his firearm one time, just one time. Mr. Riggins fell to the ground, at which time entry was made. Medics attempted to provide aid, but unfortunately they were not able to save him. And just to be clear, there have been different reports on number of shots fired and number of injuries. There was only one shot fired to the upper body and not in the back. Once the scene was secured, we then proceeded to conduct our use of deadly force investigation, which is conducted by a completely different component of the sheriff's office. No one who was involved with the narcotics transactions nor the execution of the search warrant and SWAT team participated in this investigation. We had to obtain an additional search warrant, which created some of the delay in getting information out to the media, as well as making sure we made the proper next of kin notifications. Once the search warrant was signed and approved, we began to process the scene, conduct interviews with the people who were present, neighbors, and the deputies that were involved. We also conducted a walkthrough of the scene with the deputies and the state attorney's office. We then conduct formalized interviews with the deputies, again with the state attorney's office present. And as previously mentioned, there was no firearm located at the scene. We work very closely with the state attorney's office. We will be transcribing our interviews for them, which we will present to them, where they will make a review of the case and a determination of the facts. Again, the decision is going to be a difficult one to be made on the deputy's perception of his threat and what was made in a split second. I'm going to have the gentleman an opportunity to make a statement. And again, we will work with the state attorney's office moving forward on this investigation.
Good afternoon. I'm Thomas Scott. For history's sake, I am a former county commissioner 10 years and also served on Tampa City Council for 4 years, and a pastor in the community have been for the last 36 years. Let me just say that our role is basically trying to encourage the community to remain calm. I understand that there's been some protests or some light violence, a few arrests out in the Claremore area. However, we want to assure that we want the sheriff, the state attorney, and those involved to continue the investigation. I want to say that there's been a transparency here, given what has nationally what's happened, but at least here we have where the sheriff contacted us. I think I got a call on Wednesday talking about the case. We were brought in to further explain to us the details, or as they understood at this particular time they were limited still because there's an ongoing investigation. However, I think the involvement of the community leaders, Dr. Favorite, who was involved on the conference call as well in the meeting today, also Commissioner Les Miller, who is the chairman of the Board of County Commission, was involved with that, and also Pastor Banks was contacted, however he was out of town. And so in those meetings we had on a conference call, we dialogue, and also today with the sheriff and with the information that has been given you today. And so we want to say that the transparency here has been very, very open. We were allowed to ask questions in that particular meeting, and at this point we're waiting to see further in terms of the investigation, allow that process to move forward. The main thing is today is we want to ensure the community that we are here meeting with the sheriff department, other interested party, and also ensuring that there is transparency. And thus far, there has been a lot of openness and in our discussion, and so we want the community really to remain calm And it does not serve anyone good when you go out and you destroy the property, especially in your own neighborhood. And so we want to ensure that we are here. We are going to continue to monitor this. We're going to continue to engage with the Sheriff Department relative to this, and we'll wait to due process to take place. I also want to extend our condolences to the Riggins family out in the Claremont area, and certainly whatever we can do to help, we certainly want to do that. But again, thank you so very much for this time. Mr. Cole.
Hello, and my name is James Cole. I've been with the Sheriff's Black Advisory Council for a number of years, but I'm also the youth advisor for the NAACP Youth Council. And though I'm not speaking on behalf of the NAACP Youth Council, I take very serious the perception of what is happening with this case and any other case as it relates to how our young people interpret what's happening in their community and how they're putting in perspective the things that are reported around the country. As a community, I want to state that I know that there's a lot of things that is reported in the media, and that's the job of the media, is to tell the story that's happening around the country. And I think that history has shown when the media does their job effectively, attention is drawn to proper situations. I want to make sure that in the reporting of this situation, this case, that we first acknowledge that a life has been lost. And we acknowledge the fact that a family is hurting, and a family is going to have to get through this. And if there's anything we can do as a community is recognize that a life has been lost. The dynamics around how that life has been lost is something that will have to be investigated. When we have been brought in as members of the community, specifically the black community, and I don't want to run from the dynamics of what's happening in America and how America has to deal with the perception of black people dying and law enforcement's involvement. My first contribution to the conversation is the earlier you can be transparent, the better for all involved. And I believe that every member who showed up in the meeting can agree that there was a determination on behalf of this Sheriff's Department to be transparent. The community is still going to develop its opinions of what's happening. Some of you will develop opinions based on informed information or informed or facts. Some of you will develop opinions based on what you hear in social media. I challenge you to make sure that whatever opinion you develop, that you scrutinize who you are in it, and you take the time to be very deliberate on understanding who's releasing this information and what's their agenda. There's lives that are going to be impacted, and there's a family that's going to be impacted. So the better we get this right, the better for not just that family, but the Claremont community, the Tampa community, the Hillsborough County community as a whole. But we all have a responsibility in being very deliberate and very responsible in seeing the difference between being transparent. I think this is unprecedented. I don't know if I've ever seen a case, at least in recent time, and all that's happened in America, in which within 72 hours there's been a meeting with the community and there's been information released to the press or to the media as it relates to the details of a shooting involving a law enforcement officer. The transparency and the willingness to say up front very early, the person appears to have been unarmed. We're going to do an investigation. We're going to further do an investigation to make sure that we have all our information right. I think that's a step in the right direction. Even if it may pain the community to hear that, at least it's been stated in a short amount of time. For those of you who are hurt, for those of you who are upset and believe that you should protest, and those who you believe that the family should be touched in such a manner in which you think justice is served, I will stand with you in search for justice. But as I stand with you, let's make sure that we're putting forth efforts to embrace the truth and the facts, and then deal with the facts as they come out. At this point, I believe there's been a certain level of transparency, and the information has gotten out earlier than I've seen anywhere else in the country, and I think we should build on that.
Thank you very much. Can you address if there's going to be more protests, how you guys are going to handle it? I mean, it seems like you were very peaceful in working with them last night.
Just real quick, and yes, that's our intent. We know that people are feeling pain and hurt, so we recognize that, and we have no issue with people peacefully protesting. That is their right, and we encourage and allow that to go on. It's when they start damaging property, business owners' property, residents' property, that we will take a step and step in, and that's just to resolve those issues. not the issues of them protesting. That's certainly their right. But we take great care in how we do that and how we approach that, because we want to allow the people who are doing the right thing to do that, and those who that are causing havoc and destroying property, we will address that.
So you have had some arrests out there?
Yes, we have. We'll provide that too. There's been 5 arrests, but we'll provide that information. Thank you all.